I don't like to paint like anyone else. And it's not because I want to just be different for the sake of being different. Today, I'm sharing a pretty wild technique or approach to painting that may just completely change things for you. And it also could pull you out of an epic slump if you're in one, like I've been in for quite a while. So here's the secret. I often paint with more than one brush in my hand. And sometimes between two hands, I've got like 4 or 5 brushes going. This approach to painting allows each brush to have its own purpose, and the purpose is kind of predetermined, so you don't have a lot of worrying and fussing to do during your painting session. I know that sounds chaotic right now, but stick with me. I'm going to teach you everything step by step. Let's do this. First up, I'm going to show you this technique. I guess we can call it a technique with a rose. Now, I'm just going to sketch in loosely some petals, and this is not going to be a realistic rose. However, I find that me holding more than one brush at a time happens most often when I am painting a little bit more or a lot bit more realistically. All right, that'll do. I'm going to start with this like number 14, 16 round. It's not completely clean, but just get one of those petals filled. And then what I often do is I'll have this other brush, something quite a bit smaller and even a different shape, and I'll have it filled with a color that I'm thinking of using, a color that I have been enjoying a lot. This coral here is a great example, right? And I'll have that filled. And I might just swap. This one was in this hand, and I'll just swap. And then I'll tap in the color. This is a little bit of contrast detailing. If you want more of an overview of some of the techniques that I'll probably be calling out today, head to the link in description and look for Watercolor Mastermind, and you'll find it there. And I might add a little bit more. All right, and we're just going to let that roll. Now, notice and listen, I'm not going off camera to rinse my brush. I'm just going to rest her down here, still filled with that color. And then I will continue on. So this essentially would become my damp brush, my wet brush, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to actually fill in 2 petals. Now these are right next to each other, but they're not like overlapping. Don't pay as much attention to the exact technique, but more so this like swapping of brushes. All right. And then here we go. You just come back in and it's just so much more immediate, so much more immediate. And then something I would do as things are drying, I would come in with an almost dry brush, this thin liner brush, and I would start doing some linear detail. And I could hop around. This is probably still too wet to do that. Yeah, it is. But I could come in here with this dry liner. So now I've got 3 brushes in play. And I personally like to hold on to my brushes as I'm painting. So you might see me, you could go back and you could look into videos from the past and you might see me holding 2 at a time. That's not uncommon. All right. See how I have dug in or carved into some of these rose petals here? Nice, 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 nice. So I also like to have a really tiny brush that I can either just mess around with adding some dimension just by spreading the existing color around, or have it on hand to tap in and introduce some new color like this peach here, right? And again, I would just set that down already filled. The other nice thing going back to this 1/8 inch dagger is I could bring in just wet on dry. And I did let that blend in a bit. Could just bring in a little stroke there. And I know this is just damp with cleanish water, and come in and do a little ombre or pulling, if you will. You can blot a little. Love that. And it's just so immediate. It's so right there for you. You're not all up in your palette trying to figure out what and who and where and why and when. It's just there. All right, now I want to do a leaf and fill that in really roughly. And then I got a 4th brush going here. I'm just going to grab it. It's, you're probably thinking, Christy, that is way too big, but so what? It's there. It's there. Almost the whole point of this particular technique is immediacy. And dare I say, a little bit of speed. So I'm just grabbing some green, some blue. Again, this is not about what color to grab. This whole video is about just an approach, a practice of having more brushes in play, more brushes in your hand than just one at a time. All right, I might even, let's just see, I'm going to dab off a little bit of this pink and I'm going to just tap in some of that for a little start to some shadow. Let the green and the pink kind of mingle. Yeah, why not? Why not? I could come over here if I want to get more stylized, not realistic. I could just do some linear detail in that muddy color I now have on my brush. Look how pretty that is. All right, do a few more strokes. Now, I've got green on this, so I could go in here and just make this whole leaf green. But you see my point. You're not fussing around. The only thing you have to remember and consider is like, okay, which brush? I knew this one was damp. This one's damp and it had green on it. This one's just damp, no real color. This one's probably got a little pink on it still. And this one's muddy now. That's the only thing you kind of have to keep track of, honestly. That's it. That's it. This one's muddy. Bring her in. Not pretty. Now that she's muddy, I'll probably rinse her just lightly. Yeah, I'm going off camera and rinsing and grab some fun greens, just some double loading and just tap in. I think a question you have to ask yourself with this technique is, where could I use this brush next? It's really important. Where could I use this brush as it is loaded next? Don't just put it in one place. Don't just repeat and repeat and repeat what you've done before necessarily. Where could I use this green next? Maybe this is one like a garden rose and it has a little bit of green in the center. Fabulous. Maybe you go in and you start adding a few little tendril-like moments. And again, this is not necessarily a technique video. If you're looking for how to paint like filler greenery, go ahead back down into the description. I'm going to have a video there for you about filler greenery. I think that would be a fun one if you're interested in the technique behind what I'm doing here. But where can I use this brush next? It's a great question to ask. Now I'm going to blot off my just damp brush. I'm going to go ahead and just scrub that in to fill up some of the rest of these petal areas. Now, knowing full well, like that right there is damp, and I'm already pulling some of that color down, but I'm just being mindful of that. I love this approach because I don't have the tendency to fuss as much. Now, I'm going to fill up my 1/8 inch dagger with some of this peach from my palette here, but back to not having as much need to fuss as much. So now this is my peach brush, and don't be afraid to let what each brush does change and evolve as the painting evolves. So where else can I use that peach? Little area here. I want to cover up that pencil mark a little bit. Where else could I use this peach? I'm going to add a little bit up here. Some of the decisions when you're holding more than one brush at a time, they're made for you. These brushes in this hand are like a reminder, like a signal to me. Hey, use me. They're ready for you. Use me. It's one or two less decisions you have to make in the moment. I hope that makes sense. And friends, if it doesn't make sense, if you want more clarification, head on down into the comment section and just ask. I am happy to offer you some more clarification. All right. Now, I want this to be my coral brush again, so I'm going to lightly load it and then come back in here because we can start doing some really pretty linear details that are more contrast, meaning you can really see them. There's the page is drying now, so it's going to let those lines really show up nicely. Where else can I use this? I'm going to go up here. I want to get this petal here to pop visually a little more, so I'm just dabbing it in along the edge of this petal, cutting in, carving out. And then I've still got my damp brush here, so I'm going to come right next to that coral I laid down and blend it out. A little bit of contrast detailing. I might come down here with that extra pink that's on my brush. There's not much there, but I'm just going to deposit it there. I'm going to go back to this liner here, friends, and use some of that pink. I know there's not too much on there now, but use it to define this petal. And also at the same time, guess what? I'm defining this petal. All right, let that dry a little bit. Now, I'm not really loving the strength of these lines, so I'm going to go in with my damp brush, you know it, and just pull out blot, lift, zhuzh a little. I got rid of some of those lines. They were just a little too strong for me, but I love these here. Now I'm going to, I know I have pink on this, but I'm going to add a little water. And again, you just play off of what you have and go from there. And you can change course, you can change the purpose, you can change the color of any of the brushes that you have in hand at any time, like I just did. This was a coral brush. It was loaded with some coral, and I just swished it in water for like a half a second, loaded it with some green, and now I'm doing some detailing. If you feel immediately like doing a little bit of background, because I kind of do, I've got some green on here. I actually forgot what was on this brush, but have some fun. Be daring and be like, you know what? I'm going to swish that brush around on the page and see what happens. And I'm just going to deal with what's dealt to me. And that's another thing I love about this approach. It makes you more brave. It makes you more brave. It makes you more resilient. Look at that. I'm developing a really fun, simple but subtle background here. Now I really like that, so I'm actually going to load my brush now with that intention. I'm going to do some more of it down here. It's a little too wet. But this technique makes you more brave. It makes you more resilient to that itch we get. I've got to make the perfect choice. I've got to get it just right. What brush do I choose then to get it just right? And on and on and on and on, right? You hear me? If you hear me, would you go into comments and be like, I hear ya, or something like that? I mean, just let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're here and that some of these words are resonating. So let's just do a little recap of the brushes that I've been using. And at any given time, I have had between my two hands, I've had at least 3 brushes in my hand, sometimes 4. All right. I cannot encourage you emphatically enough. I'm making this a pink brush now. See how I changed course? I cannot encourage you excitedly enough to give this a try. Now I'm just making a little stroke here, defining 2 petals at once. And I think I'm going to go in with this brush. It's got some green and some blue on it. I know it's got some moisture in it. And I'm just going to scrub up next to that coral that I laid down. Look at that. Get in, get out. You're in it. You're in it to win it. All right. What else do I want to do here? Yeah, now it's just damp. There's no real color on there. Let's see what I could do over here. I know I have some pink on here still. Oh, yeah. Right there. I'm going to go up here and do the same thing because that looked really nice. Remember, where else can I use this brush? Where else? Where else? I'm going to come back with my damp, it's just barely damp brush at this point and do some blendy blending. I'm going to add a little bit of interest there with what's left on the brush. Look at that, right? What's on this one? I think I might have to like wet it a little bit off camera. I don't even know if there's anything on here. There's a little green, so I'm going to go ahead and just make it a coral brush now. I don't want it to be too strong, so I'm blotting on the paper towel, and I'm going to go up here and just do a little bit of linear detailing. Remember, you can go down to that Watercolor Mastermind course if you want to learn more about these techniques I'm calling out, linear detailing and contrast detailing and pulling and all that kind of fun stuff. And ombre. What else did I talk about today? Ombre. I'm loaded up some more pink because I'm feeling it. I want to dab in a little more where these 2 petals meet. But friends, I think you are in a great place. I know you're in a great place now to give this a go for yourself. I want to be bold. I'm going to take this pink, add a little bit to my leaf vein. Oh yeah, I want to do a little more down here. A little linear detailing with pink. Yep, I know. You probably half of you just gasped. Pink? What? Just stick with me. But you're in a good place now, friends, to give this a try. I would suggest giving this approach a try on a subject matter that you love and that you're familiar with. I always say don't make things more difficult for yourself than you have to. If you're learning a new technique, a new habit, a new approach, don't try it on a brand new flower or a brand new landscape. Try it on something you're familiar with. All right, so let me know in comments if you're going to give this a try. And I wish you all of the many brush hands full joy of painting like this. And I can't wait to hear how it went for you. Happy painting.